But let's talk about this weekend's game for Ohio State, Aaron, because if they lose to Michigan for the 5th year in a row, Columbus may not exist anymore. Like they might just wipe it off the map and say this is where Columbus used to be. However, now after that 5th loss to Michigan, the whole place just imploded. Vibe feels very different this year, but it felt different last year. Like, where are you at on the Buckeyes heading into this game in Ann Arbor? Bryce Underwood a little more. I mean, what they had at quarterback a year ago versus what they have now is just like night and day. Where are you at on Ohio State, Michigan right now, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as we felt last year. Like, there's no way, especially the game being at Ohio State, that Ohio State would lose that game. And now you're like, oh, well, it's at Michigan. They couldn't win last year. So, like, there's not a high level of confidence. That's for sure. Should they win? Yes. Are they the better team? 100%. But they were the better team last year. They were probably the better team 3 years ago. The year before, obviously, Michigan won the national championship. But it just kind of – it's starting to feel like – what Georgia has on Texas, and then what Alabama has on Georgia, where there's been multiple years, just going back to that game, Georgia-Alabama, just because obviously I'm very familiar with it. There's been multiple times over the past 5 years where Georgia has been, in my opinion, the better football team. And even go back to Georgia's first national championship game. Heading into that SEC championship, when Georgia was the number one defense in America and how good they were, I remember even talking to a bunch of Alabama fans. They're like, dude, we're not even going to the game, because Georgia's it's their year this year. Like, we don't have an opportunity. Don't worry, we'll be back next year. We'll be, all that. And I remember even being in Atlanta at the SEC championship game, and it felt like it was 70-80% Georgia fans, because Alabama fans just really didn't have a ton of faith that they were going to win it. They kind of just were somewhat waving the white flag, and Alabama won the game. They won it decisively. And you're kind of like, man, if Georgia can't win, even when the fans believe that Georgia's the better team, even when Nick Saban's the head coach, that's not good for the future. Obviously, Georgia finally were able to win the national championship a month later, but that's kind of the same feeling you have right now, that you have a national championship coach in Ryan Day. Shermer is in his second season as a head coach at Michigan. He's not Nick Saban. He's not Kirby Smart to Steve Sarkisian. Like, you have the coaching advantage, you have the roster advantage. This has to be it, right? Like, why can't you get it done now? So I'm going to pick Ohio State to win. I do think that Ohio State doesn't really have a lot of holes, besides the fact that I don't know if they're a 4-quarter football team or not. And for Michigan, can you make it a 4-quarter game? Can you slow it down? Can you run it? Can you figure out a way to make the quarterback uncomfortable, Julian Sayin, and see if he can make some mistakes? Because right now he is yet to really make any mistakes. He's been incredibly accurate, like stupidly accurate, but he also hasn't been put under pressure at all. And once again, like, life is easy when you're playing 7-on-7 with those receivers on the outside, and knowing that you have one of the best defenses in the country. How is he going to be on the road in that environment, in this rivalry game, if it does somehow turn into a 4-quarter battle? I just want to see it. Like, I love the kid. I love what his attributes are as a quarterback. He is one of the best quarterbacks in America, no doubt about it. I just want to see, does he got the chops in the 4th quarter to make it happen in a rivalry game like this, if it ends up being, like I said, a 60-minute battle?
Didn't Ohio State last year feel a little bit like just on tilt, like kind of pent up? They were as us against the world. We're going to go win the national championship this year. It's natty or bust. They're breaking it down on that during camp. And like, this year's team just feels a little more suave, feels a little bit more mature,
unfazed.
A little bit more unfazed. Like, I don't want to make things weird. I got a man crush on Julian Sayin, dude. Like, the way that he operates, the way that he seems unfazed by everything is a great word you mentioned. Maybe we're both from the West Coast, and that's part of it. Maybe it's the flow that he has that he's growing out. Julian, we're noticing that over here on this side of things, all right? Like, he's just –
or maybe it's because he has 2 first-round receivers that he gets to throw to, JD.
Dude,
like,
but
come
the
on,
ball doesn't touch the ground, Aaron. The ball doesn't touch the 80% completion percentage. I'm like, that's hard on routes on air.
Put yourself in the perspective of a defense. Like, what do you do defensively against those guys? It is a limited playbook that defenses can play with when you have guys on the outside. I mean, I'm not here to just I love this offense, and hell, like, they are that much more talented. Everyone's so good for them. But honestly, when I watch Ohio State, it feels like the ones going against the twos in practice, where you're just like, you have to give vanilla looks, because you can't get exotic. You can't do half your stuff in the playbook because they're just that good on the outside.
And I think right in line with that, like, the thing that's impressive to me is, even with, because you said it, like, the advantage they have with Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith, like 2 Biletnikoff wide receivers, it shouldn't be allowed, it's cheating, all those things. but the way the ball doesn't touch the ground, I'm like,
I know.
I mean, you were probably in a lot more competitive routes on air situations than I was. Like, I'm not going to go ahead and say that Cornell were just like an air raid attack, but 80% in routes on air is tough. And he's like 80% against Division I defenses. Like that, the fact that he doesn't miss a lot or hardly ever, that's why I'm like, hey, this kid's got some juice.
Oh, he's special. He's special. I'm 100%. And I think if he goes out, like right now, I don't have him in my Heisman. If I did pick a Heisman,
interesting. Okay.
So if
whoever's in
charge of the Heisman, give me a vote. I don't have him in my short list.
Okay.
I have him on the outside looking in. I want to see if he goes out there and Damon looks as impressive as he has this season, he'll get on my list. If he goes out there and beats Indiana and looks as impressive as he's looked, and I mean, even versus Indiana, I don't need him to be 80%. Like, say he goes versus Indiana and throws 3 touchdowns, interception, and like 290 yards. I'm like, okay, that's a damn good game, and they win. Then he elevates himself to, you just had your Heisman moment along with these stats. Then yes, you're my Heisman guy. But I'm not having him as my Heisman guy until he does it these next 2 weeks, to be honest. I think there's been other guys, Marcel, Jeremiah Love, Gunnar Stockton, who I talked about earlier in the show. Like, those guys have done it, been put in the pressure cooker, and showed me that they are got the guts to kind of be that full package to win a Heisman. Diego Pavia, hell, I mean, even the way he played this past weekend and what he's done this year, and obviously he's going to have another opportunity versus Tennessee to make have another statement. Like, I would have those guys ahead of him right now in my ballot. Obviously, Fernando Mendoza there at Indiana, especially with some of the games that he's been able to produce. So I'm not all in on Julian Sayin. I just need him to have a couple more of those Heisman games against better competition before I crown him in that you're going to New York for me.
I think that logic is sound. I mean, in case you needed any affirmation, I think that logic is very sound. And I'm as high at Julian Sayin as there is, but I think that frame of thought is very sound. We're going
to learn a lot about him in 2 weeks. Like, let's just watch the games.
Yeah.
We're going to find out.
If he wins the Heisman, it'll be because they beat Michigan and he does enough against Indiana, that stat line you mentioned, to put him in New York and have him hosting that trophy. But wouldn't it be the most 2025 thing ever if Bryce Underwood just goes out there and goes for number 5 against Ohio State? Like, where I think Bryce Underwood, I'm waiting to see like the full Bryce Underwood experience for Michigan, where they run him more and cut it loose a little bit more. I wonder how much ability they truly have on the outside around him to like maximize what he has. What do you see when you see Bryce Underwood, Aaron, from what you've been able to watch from him?
Yeah, I mean, I see obviously a very gifted quarterback. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the dude's got a beautiful release. He's got a rocket for an arm. He's super athletic. I mean, he checks off a lot of boxes. There's some touch and timing things that need to continue to progress. But I think that if you had the same type of receivers that you'll be looking across the field and watching at Ohio State, you can kind of maybe trust a little bit more what you can do and build a little bit more chemistry and build some more confidence. If you had better guys around you. So I think that if you're Michigan, you're just scratching the surface of what Bryce Underwood could be, which is a scary thought if you're other teams inside the Big Ten. I think if you're able to get him, even one elite top receiver next year, you're talking about a guy that should elevate himself in year 2 as a starting quarterback to one of the best quarterbacks in college football. If you can get 2 guys around him, maybe not even to the extent that Ohio State has, but just 2 capable playmakers, watch out. This Michigan offense could look vastly different than what we've been accustomed to seeing them over the past, forever, essentially, because of his talent and what he could do from a physical standpoint. So I love him. Like I said, could this be his moment of like, hey man, I've played an entire season. I am this physically gifted. I'm going to be that type of guy that when the lights are the brightest is when I really, really shine. I would love to see that, no doubt about it. Then obviously then Michigan has an opportunity to be a playoff team. Michigan has an opportunity to go to the Big Ten championship game if Oregon loses in their matchup against Washington. So can it happen? 100%, because he is, to your point earlier, he's better than the quarterback they had a year ago. It's just a matter of this is a really good Ohio State defense at all 3 levels, elite linebackers, one of the best players in America at the safety position. Will he have an opportunity to even have guys get open is going to be a problem for Michigan.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch that one, man. We're gonna learn so much about both quarterbacks and just the juice behind it with it being the game. Like that's gonna be awesome. I can wait for that one. But